Americans are paying $52,000 for a three-row SUV when the answer to their transportation problem is sitting on a dealer lot for $18,000, and most of them will drive right past it. The station wagon was declared dead in America. The media buried it. The automakers quietly moved production elsewhere, and for 20 years the American buyer accepted that verdict without question. But the used market tells a different story, one the new car industry has no interest in you hearing. A retired electrician in Tulsa, Oklahoma named Gary Merritt bought a 2018 Volkswagen Golf SportWagen for $17,400 in January of this year. He drove it home and immediately started calculating what he'd saved, not just at purchase, but in fuel, insurance, and maintenance costs that compound over years. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why men like Gary are making this calculation, and why the automakers would prefer you never did. The stakes here are real money. American families spend an average of $12,300 per year on vehicle ownership, payments, fuel, insurance, and maintenance combined. That's roughly $1,025 every single month for a depreciating asset sitting in a driveway 96% of the time. Gary Merritt ran those numbers before he ever set foot in a dealership. He had been driving a 2019 Ford Explorer with $687 monthly payments. When the transmission needed $4,200 in repairs at 78,000 miles, he made a decision that most Americans in his position don't make. He stopped accepting the assumption that bigger is better. He sold the Explorer. He paid cash for the Golf SportWagen. His monthly transportation cost dropped from $687 to $214. That's insurance, fuel, and occasional maintenance. That's a difference of $473 per month, or $5,676 per year, money that now goes into a retirement account. The villain in this story is not any individual brand or dealer. It's a market structure, specifically the $1.4 trillion American new car industry that spends $18 billion per year on advertising. Every dollar of that advertising is designed to make you feel that your truck or SUV is a reflection of your identity, not a financial decision. And it has worked extraordinarily well. But here's what that advertising budget never wants you to price out: the actual 10-year cost of ownership difference between these three wagons and their SUV equivalents. But this is only the surface layer. The American wagon didn't die because consumers rejected it. It died because automakers decided SUVs were more profitable, and then shaped consumer preference to match that decision. In 1990, wagons represented 14% of total U.S. passenger vehicle sales. By 2005, that number had fallen to under 2%. The manufacturers didn't follow the market, they led it, by pulling wagon models from showrooms while simultaneously lobbying for SUV fuel economy exemptions that made trucks artificially cheap to build. Ford discontinued the Taurus wagon in 1999. GM killed the Buick Roadmaster estate in 1996. Chrysler ended the last American-made wagon in 2004 with the Dodge Magnum lineup's phase-out announcement. Each decision reduced consumer choice while increasing average transaction prices. Gone. Completely gone. The European manufacturers watched this happen and kept building wagons. Volkswagen, Subaru, Volvo, and Audi all maintained wagon lines through the 2000s and 2010s, not out of sentiment, but because their home markets still valued efficiency and practicality over size signaling. That's the critical data point. European wagon sales held steady at 22.28% of total market share throughout the same period that American wagon sales collapsed. Same roads, same families, different marketing environment. Subaru made a specific bet on the American market in 2010. They expanded the Outback's marketing budget by $340 million and specifically targeted buyers who felt alienated by the truck culture messaging of the Big Three. It worked. Subaru's U.S. sales grew 84% between 2010 and 2016. The market for practical, capable, affordable transportation never disappeared. The supply of vehicles built to serve it almost did. But here's what most people get wrong. Most people looking at used wagons in 2026 are comparing sticker prices. That is the wrong calculation entirely. Here are the three wagons that belong in this conversation, ranked from good to legendary, with real ownership numbers attached. Number 3. The 2018-2021 Volkswagen Golf SportWagen. Purchase price on a clean 2019 example in 2026, $15,800 to $18,500. Average insurance cost in the U.S., $1,240 per year. Fuel cost at 36 miles per gallon highway and 15,000 miles annually, $1,890 per year at current national average prices. Scheduled maintenance on the 1.4-liter turbocharged engine through 100,000 miles, approximately $3,100 total. 10-year cost of ownership on a $17,000 purchase including depreciation, $31,200. Compare that to a 2019 Toyota RAV4, widely considered the sensible choice, purchased today for $26,500. Same fuel costs are $2,590 per year at 26 miles per gallon. 10-year ownership cost, $44,800. The Golf SportWagen saves you $13,600 over a decade. That's more than most Americans have in emergency savings. And that number becomes more significant when you understand what the second wagon on this list actually delivers. Number 2. The 2015-2019 Subaru Outback. The Outback earns its place here because it does something the Golf cannot. It goes anywhere. Standard all-wheel drive. 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Cargo volume of 75.7 cubic feet with rear seats folded, more than a Ford Escape. Purchase price on a clean 2017 example, $19,200 to $22,000. Fuel cost at 29 miles per gallon combined, $2,270 per year. The 10-year ownership cost on a $20,500 Outback purchase, $38,600. That's still $6,200 less than the RAV4, and you get genuine off-road capability that the RAV4 cannot match without upgrading to the $34,000 Trail Edition. Now, the legendary choice. Number 1. The 2016-2022 Volvo V60 or V90 Cross Country. This is where the value inversion becomes impossible to ignore. A 2018 Volvo V90 Cross Country, a vehicle that sold new for $58,000, is available today for $26,500 to $31,000 on a clean used example. Swedish safety engineering, standard AWD. A turbocharged 4-cylinder producing 250 horsepower. Lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, and a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, features still optional on many 2026 American trucks. 10-year ownership cost on a $28,000 V90 purchase, accounting for slightly higher maintenance, $46,200. The same budget spent on a new base trim 2026 Chevy Tahoe at $57,400 MSRP with a $780 monthly payment, costs $93,600 over 10 years when you include financing interest at current rates. The Volvo costs you $47,400 less, over 10 years. That is not a rounding error. That is a second vehicle, or 4 years of college tuition at a state university, or a substantial portion of a retirement fund. Gary Merritt understood this arithmetic before most people are willing to run it. Here is what the man watching this video already knows but has never heard stated plainly. The pressure to buy a truck or SUV in America is not about capability. It is about social signaling in a market that has spent $18 billion per year teaching you that size equals status. The men who build things for a living, the electricians, the contractors, the engineers, they understand cost of ownership intuitively. They calculate material efficiency on job sites every day. But somehow, at the dealership, that same analytical mind gets replaced by an emotional response to a financing offer and a chrome grille. What most people don't realize is that the wagon market in 2026 is structurally undervalued precisely because American culture undervalues it. That gap between what these vehicles are worth in capability, in safety ratings, in cargo volume, and what the market charges for them is a direct result of 3 decades of deliberate marketing pressure. The buyer who ignores that pressure captures the value the market is leaving on the table. The Golf SportWagen was built on the same MQB platform as the $35,000 Audi A3. The Volvo V90's safety cell meets Euro NCAP 5-star standards that exceed many vehicles sold in America for twice the price. These are not compromise vehicles. They are mislabeled ones. Gary Merritt's monthly payment is now $214. His neighbor just signed a 72-month loan for a Chevy Silverado at $891 per month. Which brings us to what happens next. The used wagon market in America will not stay this undervalued forever. As fuel prices continue to rise and new vehicle transaction prices push past $50,000 on average, the buyers who priced efficiency first, the ones who ran the 10-year math instead of the monthly payment math, will be insulated from a cost structure that is becoming unsustainable for most American households. The men who overlooked these three vehicles in 2020 are looking at them differently in 2026. And the men who buy them in 2026, at prices still 40 to 60% below their new vehicle equivalents, will be looking at a very different financial picture in 2033. The question is not whether the wagon makes sense. The numbers settled that question years ago. The question is how long a buyer is willing to pay a premium for the privilege of ignoring them.